everyone out there, how's it going? Welcome to Screen Speak. It is the podcast that is all about movies, life, and so much more. I'm Jordan Anderson. This is my podcast, and I do sincerely appreciate each and every one of you that are coming by and giving this a listen, doing whatever it is that you're doing whenever this is playing, whether you're driving, you're at work, you're on the toilet, doing whatever it is people do on the toilet. I don't know, but you're here, and that's the point. So I really appreciate that. If you haven't done so already, as you know, I do like to get the annoying, stupid plugs out of the way so that you'll actually follow the podcast and help it grow and yada, yada, yada. But you know, I have to do it. So follow, download episodes of Screen Speak on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts at, that's where you'll find it. There is an Instagram for it. I can tell you right now, it's not the most fleshed out Instagram account. I'm not great with Instagram, but I try. So if you want to see me do really weird movie related posts or just kind of shitty attempts at social media, you can check out the Instagram for Screen Speak. The handle is at Screen Speak Podcast. So it's pretty easy to find. You can look that up there. And that's it for all the plugs. So please do one or all of those things, and you'll be in my good graces if that matters to you at all. Okay, so I got more guests. That's right. I got more guests for the podcast, and I'm very excited. In particular, because I got two people on for this episode, and I've never had two people before. So this could be a disaster. Could be great. Could be. I think I already said a disaster. Why am I leaning in on that? I don't know. I don't think it will be.
It's going to be a disaster.
Okay. I guess Adam thinks it's going to be a disaster, but here we go. So we got Adam Wall. And am I allowed to say your girlfriend? Is that you guys have a label, right? I can say this.
Yes, it is my girlfriend. My friend that is a woman. Yeah.
All right. So we have Adam Wall and his girlfriend, Sofia Haan. Am I saying that? Am I saying your last name correctly?
You got it. Yeah,
Haan?
you did. Way to go. Yes.
Okay.
Like Solo.
Well, I was gonna say Haan from Fast and Furious. I'm
gonna be honest, I've never seen Fast and Furious.
That's probably for the best, honestly. Yeah. I mean, the first one's okay, and then after that, it's like it becomes a lot more than stealing DVD players. Okay, so welcome both of you. I really appreciate you both being here.
Thanks, Jordan.
And Sophia, I'm just gonna single you out here for a second because again, I don't really know you, but I know Adam. And
yes.
He said that you wanted to do this, or at least he said that you were interested. So can you tell me about that?
Yes. No, I've been so excited to do this for like a really long time because Adam did Pig, like one of your first episodes.
Yeah.
And I listened to it and I was like, wow, this conversation's really well-rounded. You guys touched on a lot of really interesting points. Great Nicolas Cage dialogue, which
Absolutely.
is always a plus. And I was like, I've got to be on this. I'm a big podcast nut, so I wanted
What are some of the ones you listen to?
Oh man. So as lame and basic as it is, I listen to The Daily from the New York Times every morning.
Okay.
But other than that, if you are interested in history or like bad people in history, Behind the Bastards is probably one of my favorite podcasts.
Who runs that?
iHeartRadio is the company overlord, but then Robert Evans is the host.
Company overlord. That's a fun way of looking at it.
Yeah. Podcast network is probably the better term. But yeah, Robert Evans is a war reporter and he talks about it.
No, that's actually really interesting. And I know just on the subject of history podcasts, I feel like anybody or most anybody that I talk to that likes podcasts or listens to them frequently, I feel like they always have like at least one history one that they like to listen to. I think there's a lot of history people out there. I don't really realize it so much.
Exactly.
I don't know. Adam.
Jordan.
I think maybe I asked you on the earlier episode, but it's only fair that I ask you, what are some podcasts that you listen to?
Oh, geez. I don't listen to too many, honestly.
I know there's one
on the point of a history podcast. If you have not listened to Hardcore History and you're listening to this right now, don't stop listening to this podcast, but add a Hardcore History podcast next to your queue because it's the coolest podcast out there, I think. Way better than what Sofia recommended, for sure, I would say.
That's true.
Is it a contest?
One point I want to add as well is, Jordan, I feel like you've been getting a lot of practice with these podcasts lately. You're really killing it with the intro game now.
That intro was flawless.
He's flawless with it, dude.
Yeah.
I just had to sit back and listen.
No, that's cool. I try not to like keep it like scripted. Like I kind of have like little iterations that I do with it every time, but I can definitely say that since I've kind of picked up on what kind of feels right and natural, I'm just like just kind of stick with a base and then just kind of evolve it from there. But it does, like, if it's the same every time, then it kind of like, it's a little, I don't want it to sound like I'm on what is it, NPR or something, where it's just like, hello, you're listening to some lame thing at 4 a.m.
Do you know what episode this is? What episode is
This
this?
is number 24.
Damn, dude.
Oh,
Number
killing it.
24.
Breaking them out.
Yeah, twice
Oh
a
my
week. Yeah, every Sunday and or I don't know why I said Sunday first. Every Friday and every Sunday there are new episodes, and I have been consistent with that since the podcast launched on August 13th of 2021. I don't know why I'm being that specific.
Do you feel
But-
like doing
Incredible.
2 a week has been enough for you? Like, do you feel overwhelmed by that sometimes,
No,
or is it
no.
a good number?
No, it's good. I mean, I honestly could probably do more if I had more time. But no, like it's actually kind of really interesting because obviously, like with guests, it's you can kind of be a bit more comfortable with, like, not always relying on your own voice. You can kind of count on the other person to pick up the conversation. But the
Mhm.
solo ones are an interesting challenge to do because I don't really think a lot of people stop and think about it, but it actually takes without sounding arrogant, it takes a certain type of skill set to be able to fill like 45 minutes, an hour on your own without it sounding like you're just kind of ranting all over the place or just kind of filling in crap for the sake of filling dead air. I think there's probably been a few episodes where I've filled in some shit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But I like the challenge of it, and I think I have a natural tendency to be able to do it fairly well and have it not come across as being, again, just kind of shitty and unprepared. So
Yeah, dude.
hopefully that comes across on there anyway. But
I mean, it's probably a lot of just practice too. Like, I'm sure as you keep doing it, you'll just get better at it. Like you have with the intro, of course. So
yeah, and one of the best things that I love actually about listening to podcasts, and I don't know again if Sophia or Adam, you guys feel like this, but I love the really good ones, like the people that are really good at it. You can tell that they have like conversation down as like an art form. I mean, like they know how to like weave conversations. They don't interrupt too much, but they have a healthy back and forth. And as a person that would like to pride himself on, I would like to say, being a good conversationalist with people, I don't think I'm just a freaking talkaholic unless it's of course just me, and then I have no choice. I have to do it. But I
he's
like
popular.
well, I like the practice that it gives you to actually just work up how good your social skills are. That's I guess what I'd like to say, because I think there's a lot of people that honestly either talk too much or they talk too little. They don't really have a good balance. So
Do you have any podcasters that are kind of your role models or people you've tried to emulate a little bit as you've been running your
Ooh.
podcast and honing your skills?
That's an interesting question. I'd say, yeah, I mean, it's like a yes and no thing. I think I started getting into podcast listening to a lot of stand-up comedians. They have a lot of ones like Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast. I love his. I love Joe Rogan as well. I mean, I know he's like kind of the number one for a lot of stuff, but he's pretty great.
Sophia loves Joe Rogan.
I like Mark Maron's got a good podcast that he's ran for a long time, the What the Fuck podcast.
Mark Maron's is really good. He has really interesting guests on. I listened to one the other day about it was Joe Biden's son.
Yeah,
so
I listened to the Hunter
interesting
Biden episode.
Yeah, that one was weird because it's so weird getting his take on things, because he is just like the son of a president who is also like a crack fiend. Like all this shit. It's very interesting.
Hunter Biden, I'm glad he's off the pipe, I guess. But yeah, I don't know enough about Hunter Biden to really talk about that. No, but I guess to kind of go back to the podcast question of like ones I listen to, I don't know if there's like any one in particular that's like the GOAT for me, for like the one I like really look up to. But I definitely have like consistent ones like the ones I mentioned, and there's some others too. And again, I feel like they mostly they're more for like entertainment's sake. I don't really think I listen to an awful lot of serious ones. But that said, the ones I do listen to consistently, I feel like there's pieces of them that I try to kind of pick apart where I'm like, I think they do this right, and I kind of like what they're doing here. But at the same time, it's important for me to be me. And so I don't really want to draw, honestly, too much on what other people are doing. I just kind of more focus on the format and the structure that they have that makes their stuff be organized. because I don't want to again be somebody that's hosting a podcast that's just kind of rambling and having it just be like some joke. It's like, no, I actually put a lot of thought into this. So
Yeah, I think that's important. And it's clear by the episodes that I've listened to that you've really done that. So props to
well,
you.
I appreciate it. I don't like to be like, oh, like thanks me, but but I'll take a compliment anytime I can get it. So why not?
Absolutely.
Okay. So are you both ready to talk about this crazy movie?
Absolutely. I don't, Adam told you, but I've been prepping. I've been listening to my
Okay.
Shining podcasts. I am ready.
Now, oh, okay. Well, I gotta ask about that. You listen to
Okay.
a now, are you listening to a podcast that's all about The Shining, or are you listening to episodes that talk about it?
So there was two. One was doing like a comparison between the book and the movie. And then the other one was a little bit more behind the scenes, talking about more of the making and, how was Stephen King reached out to by Stanley Kubrick? How did Jack Nicholson get in the mindset for whatever scene it may be? Different things like that. So
That's
kind of trying to get both
fantastic.
perspectives. Thank you. And had to come prepared, trying to get
No,
both
I'm
perspectives on
I'm
it.
so glad you brought up some of those because I have in my notes over here on my second monitor. I got some stuff about the behind the scenes that I found very interesting, and I think they're true as far as I know.
Yeah.
Because one thing I'll say about this movie, The Shining, and I'll get into like the synopsis and all that stuff like I typically do in episodes on the movies, but The Shining's it's it's definitely like one of those like legendary movies. It's considered a classic by pretty much anybody that knows halfway anything about movies, and it's not like just a horror movie classic. It's a classic movie. Um, and that said, there's just like I feel like a lot more lore around the movie because Stanley Kubrick is kind of a mythic filmmaker. He's like a weird recluse for a lot of his career, and very strange man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a genius, but I think he's a pretty out there dude. Um, but anywho, Adam, you're being a
Yes.
little quiet there, big guy. What's going on?
I'm here, man. I'm listening. I'm ready.
Are you?
Oh yeah, dude. This was The Shining. This was my first time seeing it actually.
Now,
You
Sophia,
saying
you've
it's a
seen it
classic makes
before.
me feel bad. Like the classic of classics. And I've never seen this movie before.
Well, don't feel bad.
Like
Don't feel
I
bad.
knew all the like there's the here's Johnny thing and there's like
Yes.
there's like some of the classics in there.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know about any of that before watching this movie. Or I just all I knew about it was that it was like you're in a cabin and they go insane or something like that.
Right.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like I was expecting it to be kind of boring because it's like where can you really go with this? But they honestly they kind of blew me. I wouldn't say blow me away is the right word for it, but they kind of surprised me for sure of like where this movie actually went and what actually happened in it. It was kind of nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, this was my third or fourth time seeing this. So watching him watch the movie for the first time and being able to kind of anticipate the super weird sections or even just the more stereotypical horror parts, I loved. It was because even seeing it for the third or fourth time, I'm seeing different things that I probably didn't recognize or maybe didn't understand to the fullest extent when I watched it in high school or at the beginning of college or anything like that.
So this is interesting because Adam's a first timer, or we call him a cherry popper or whatever that is for virgin
Virgin.
movie.
Virgin.
You're a virgin, right? Okay, I don't know why I'm making that strange, but Adam seen it one time. Sophia, you've seen it 3 or 4 times. You said,
Yep. Yep.
and I'm the oldest one here, and I don't really want to admit how many times I've seen it, but I've seen it a
Really?
lot.
Okay.
So this will be interesting because we have 3 different perspectives on kind of the movie and whatnot. So I think that's going to be really great. Um, what you just touched on the thing, Sophia. What were you just talking about? I wanted to go back to that quick for a second.
I was saying that each time that I've watched it, I've seen different things.
Yes.
Either it's visually or even now picking up on different themes
Mhm.
that I 100% didn't catch when I saw it originally.
That's what I was going to comment on, is that this is, apart from it being a legendary movie and it has a lot of great stories and conspiracy theories and whatnot behind it. Um, this is absolutely a movie that merits a repeat watch. Like I challenge somebody to just watch The Shining once and just be like, yeah, I got it all. Like,
You didn't.
I don't think so.
I will
Be-
say there were a lot of points in this movie I was very confused. I had no idea what was going on.
that's intentional.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I sort of understand that was intentional, but it was also kind of like Come on, Stanley, give me something here. What is this supposed to mean? How am I supposed to make anything out of this? So I guess you're right. I have to go back and watch it again, but we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
well, because there's a lot to unpack in this movie, which we're going to get into what some of those things are. But you can rewatch this movie like just to pick up on some of those like weird like mind games that the movie's playing with you, because it'll make more sense when you rewatch it a couple of times, because you can kind of see different angles of the movie where it's like, okay, like this is influencing this and that, and I kind of see what the writer's going for this and blah blah blah. But I know that even like hardcore film enthusiasts watch this movie as just like a film school thing because it's so brilliantly shot. There is incredible camera work in this movie, and even if you don't have much of an appreciation for that, it's hard not to watch. Like the shot I always go to in this movie is the tracking shot with Danny and his bicycle, and
Yes,
it's
the
just
steady
going.
cam.
There's the steady cam, and there's no cuts. And if I'm not mistaken, if my movie history is serving me right, they invented a special camera rig just for this movie to be able to pull that off. And then in turn, I think Martin Scorsese ended up picking it up for some of his movies like Goodfellas, and it's a very fascinating look when you look at the film history of it all.
Yeah, I remember hearing on one of the podcasts about that I think the rig was attached to their chest, but you could lower it down. So the person was just walking behind Danny. And then the same
Yes.
thing during the maze, that they were just following them and just running behind them, which
Yeah.
brilliant.
One of the greatest, Adam, I gotta get your perspective on this, especially since you were talking about I don't get it. How tripped out were you in the scene where Jack Nicholson is kind of leaning over that model of the hedge maze and he's looking down at it, and then it just slowly starts to pan in and you see Wendy and little Danny just walking there, but it's like it's a model, but how's he seeing them? Like,
Oh God, yeah, that was cool. Oh, I remember that part now. I forgot about that. Yeah, there was
it's a
some.
little moment. It's not huge, but it's weird. It's
It
very,
is.
very
Okay,
weird.
honestly, like to go back a little bit to go back to the Steadicam thing. Like first time watching this movie, one thing I really did notice was the Steadicam was very effectively used in those scenes because it just added so much drama to it. Like I don't know how they did, but the fact that it wasn't cutting and then that every single time you saw him turn and then it would be the next hallway or the next part of the maze just added so much intensity to it because you're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna turn this corner and there's gonna be like 10 dead people around this corner and he's gonna die. And like every single time he did that turn, and there's always the super eerie music in the background. You're like, geez, dude, I hate that. I like you hate it, but you also love it at the same time. I don't know. It was one of the more noticeable like this because at some points in the movie, Sofia was commenting on different camera work that was used just so I could get a better understanding of what was going on. And the kid bike riding thing was the most obvious one, really. But it was used so effectively, I thought, in adding like suspense and thrill to the movie.
And what I love about that shot in particular too is that you commented on the score, which it is brilliantly used throughout the movie, but it's very selective because in that scene in particular, there ain't shit. There's just his tricycle making that awful loud echo that is reverberating off the wood floor around the huge the huge expanse of space that they're shooting in, which is also one of the greatest benefits about a movie that actually takes the time to shoot on location, like in an actual place, because you can't really fake that. Like, and again, I don't know if everybody appreciates that, but it sure makes it a bit more scary when you don't hear anything. And like you said, just anything could happen from around the corner. Okay, so I got to read the synopsis here of the movie, and then we'll keep going. As if nobody's actually seen The Shining, but I mean, shit, it came out.
I never saw it. So
okay, well, Adam, yes, that's true. I have to realize, this movie, it came out May 23rd, 1980, to be exact. I mean, I'm not a human calculator, but that seems like a while ago. It's been a minute, so there probably are a bunch
at
of
least 41 years ago, I would say.
Is that really? Is that does this
41
check
years.
out? 10, 20? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
not
gosh,
how I count. I don't like do it. I usually
read the
calculate.
synopsis, Jordan. Read us the synopsis.
All right, I'm gonna read the synopsis. So here's the story of The Shining. So Jack Torrance, played by the amazing Jack Nicholson, he becomes a winter caretaker at the isolated Overlook Hotel in Colorado, hoping to cure his writer's block, amongst probably a few other things. He settles in along with his wife, Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, and his son, Danny, played by Danny Lloyd, who is plagued by psychic premonitions. And as Jack's writing goes nowhere and Danny's visions become more disturbing, Jack discovers the hotel's dark secrets and begins to unravel into a homicidal maniac hell bent on terrorizing his family. Say that's pretty well said, as far as I can tell.
Sounds pretty good to me.
So the first thing I want to talk about, like for like the actual points I had for this movie, we gotta talk about Jack Nicholson. Like it's like the first thing that comes up when I think about this movie. His performance is absolutely incredible, and it is really, really, really hard for me to imagine this movie being cast with somebody else. Like I'm sure it could probably work, but it wouldn't be the same movie. It's just be a different movie. So, Adam, Sophia, tell me what you think about the great Jack Nicholson.
So watching it again this last time, it was interesting to watch his progression as a character, or kind of lack thereof, because I felt like as soon as it started, you knew that he was kind of a fucked up guy. Like he's not well. And I just think back to the interview that he has with Mr. Ullman or whatever his name is. And he is just creepy from the outset. Maybe that's just Jack Nicholson, and maybe that's just me looking at the actor more than the character, but it seems like he's already on the path to creepy and not doing great things with his family from the beginning. And it was actually interesting to hear about the book and how the character has more of that arc and starts as a really wholesome, family-oriented guy and then becomes the monster at the end, as opposed to making people uncomfortable from the outset. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that from the beginning, I've come into the movie kind of a little wary of Jack Nicholson, which I think gives his character a lot of weight throughout the whole thing. So you know that things are going to be bad, and it was great to just like continue to watch things devolve from there. But I can't say that you had as much character growth as you might have potentially had the movie been written a different way.
That is a very interesting way to look at that. Adam.
I honestly I agree with what Sophia says, but I don't necessarily think it was just the writing itself. I think it's just who Jack Nicholson is as an actor, where he just like, if you point the camera at him and he stares at you and he moves his eyebrow like at all, then you're like, this guy is gonna like eat my insides basically. Like he's just a creepy looking guy as a whole, and I think a lot of his facial expressions just come off as like, this man's gonna kill me. And I think it works great for when things start getting suspenseful, but I think Sophia's right too, where it's like, even when he's just talking with the dude, you're like, this guy's gonna like fucking kill everyone. Like you could just tell he's like not gonna like. And I don't know if that makes the movie any worse or better, but it was something I noticed specifically, like as with Jack Nicholson as an actor, he kind of makes it so that you're just uncomfortable with him from the get-go, just because of who he is as a guy and who he kind of acts as, really. I will say though, like
yeah,
him becoming like, when he actually goes crazy and when he goes insane, like I don't think there is a better actor you could pick to have a person who is insane. Like he is a nightmare man once he gets going, and like he's such a good actor at being just insane as a person, and like I think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
And so that, I think that is the big upside to Jack Nicholson, is he's just so good at being that guy with the axe that's going to murder someone, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Because even if you had that character arc of they start more family oriented and more homey and everything and then become the axe murderer, it wouldn't feel as believable. You know, if you put in, trying to think of other big stars from the 80s, Tom Hanks. I will never believe that Tom Hanks is going to come after me with an axe. No. But yeah. So I agree with what Adam's saying, is like, you needed Jack Nicholson to be in that role.
Yeah, well, and I think Jack Nicholson, he's proven throughout his career that the guy has immense range. He absolutely does, but I think he has an unpredictability about him. And I think that's probably something that I would assume Stanley Kubrick probably picked up on when they're casting him. And even from the get-go of the movie, I mean, you have the great opening tracking shot in the mountains with that creepy ass music, that it just like it keeps going, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm in for some shit. But I want to talk about that interview scene real quick, because I think, to me, and you're absolutely right, because right from the beginning of that, even though you're just like, okay, like he's normal now, like great. You kind of
No.
get that vibe that you're like, this guy's
Yeah.
he's a little twisted. And I think that the part that gives that away is when the interviewer guy, the Mr. Altman, I think is what we're gonna call him.
Yeah.
He says, he's just like, so Mr. Torrance, I don't really want to put you off or anything, but well, there was another caretaker up here, and well, kind of killed his wife, kids, and blew his head off, and just kind of.
Will that happen to you?
yeah. He's kind of like, it's obviously an uncomfortable subject, and his reaction to the thing is very subtle, but that's kind of, to me, the first giveaway is where he's, instead of kind of being like, oh my god, this is horrible, like I need to talk to my wife, or like ooh, like like he doesn't really question it that much. He's just kind of like, well, my wife, she's a ghost movie fanatic, and like I'm sure she'll be fascinated when I tell her. Like, no, that doesn't bother me. I'm like, I don't know if a really normal guy would react quite that way to hearing that news.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
Well, and hearing you describe that scene that way, it almost, and maybe I'm jumping ahead too far, it makes me think of that last scene where you're looking at the photograph and he's in the picture, and the whole theories of like he's just the next reincarnation of the caretakers, and he's always kind of been a part of the hotel, that like he came into that interview knowing already, so being told that news again, he knew, so he had to like play it off as, oh, this is so surprising. Whatever.
That's definitely a good theory. That's one of many theories.
Yeah, maybe a little tin hat of me, but I don't know, just that he was already a part of the hotel at that point.
We're definitely going to get into that, I promise you, because there's no way to talk about this movie without doing that. So the next thing I want to talk about on here, because I think it's a central theme, at least running throughout the movie, is the subject of facing your demons. Because Jack Torrance, not just him, but his wife Wendy and his son Danny, they're trapped in the Overlook Hotel, and really they got nothing but time with each other, time alone, and they're apparently in the midst of potentially evil spirits, if you even want to go as far as saying that, because honestly, you don't even know if like that's even real. They could just be losing their marbles and hallucinating the entire thing. There might not even be a damn ghost. Except they do indicate at one point during the early shots when the staff workers are there, they're just like, well, this was on a bit Indian burial ground, so it's probably some evil shit. But the question I wanted to ask you guys on this is, how do you feel about the subject of facing your demons? And you can characterize it like in the movie, like when you're talking about how they deal with it, because I think Jack Torrance, how he used to do it was the bottle. He would drink a lot, probably beat up his son. That probably felt good to him for a little bit. I'm not saying that's good, but I just think it's an interesting thing to talk about, because the movie is dealing so much with a man ultimately that is trying to come to terms with his demons in a way, because I think that's part of why he's wanting to be left alone in the hotel. He's trying to kind of get his mind right. Obviously, he picks the wrong hotel to do that at. But I don't know, just what do you guys think about that? Like facing your demons in an isolated location like that. Like, what does that make you think about?
I will say, I think probably isolating yourself, living in a place where there's no one else other than just your family, is probably a pretty terrible way to face your demons, I think. Which is why I think, like me personally, I didn't necessarily go straight to ghosts and thinking they're probably just losing their minds a little bit. Because like if you're already like just like an alcoholic as a whole, and like I don't know, that place is spooky, of course, but like if you're just going to be in this giant hotel by yourself with nothing but your family, and all you're doing is writing, and like you don't even know what you're writing, you're just trying to find some sort of reason to write, basically, in this isolation, like more than expected. I would say most of the human population would probably go insane in one way or the other over a course of time. So I don't know whose idea was it for Jack Torrance. I don't know why Jack thought that going into this isolation area would be best for him and his family, but it's probably not the best thing to do if you're already struggling, I would say.
Well, I think that's interesting because I think Jack is fundamentally a selfish character.
Yeah.
That nothing he does leading up to the decision to move to the Overlook and throughout the entire movie is with his family in mind. So, moral of the story, I don't think he was thinking. I think he was just like, me time. I guess the wife's here too, but all right. So but to answer your original question, Jordan, I think it adds an interesting level of grounding to the movie to have that element of facing your demons, because you do have all this fantastic stuff happening around you that you can't really explain, but to have that really human element to it changes it. And I think it can throw people off or distract them a little bit, because you go into the movie not expecting to have really real human emotions. You expect to be scared. And having something that serious as alcohol abuse or physical abuse within your family is not something that people want to experience in that moment or like think about. So it really throws a wrench into it. But I think Kubrick knew that obviously and made that another element of it and kind
So,
of change it to more psychological.
well, so let me ask. So, Sophia, you said you read the book, right? Have you read
I
the
have not
book?
read the book.
Okay, you haven't. Adam, have you read the book?
I have not, no.
Okay, so see, I haven't read the book either, but I was curious. Like, I mean, I wish I had read the book and whatnot, but I was kind of curious, like, if they had if the characters had those attributes in the book versus the movie or that kind of thing. But aside the point, um, I do think that for a movie like this, and in particular, this is a slow burn movie. It's deliberately slowly paced, which can maybe kind of throw some people off from the beginning. But I think you need to have that character grounding, as you were talking about, to have you be invested in the people. Because if you don't, the scares alone are not going to really grab you that much. It's actually a lot more scary because you are aware these people have demons and they have personal problems and things like that, that in a way, and that's another theory that the movie kind of draws on, that people speculate over, is how the hotel in a way is this evil place that draws on a person's insecurities and things that they are afraid of in themselves, possibly terrible things. Because I think I didn't even have this thing prepared for this point, but it makes you think about like things that you keep inside yourself, that like parts of yourself that you're afraid of, that if you were in a place like that, who knows what would come out of you. Like, and I don't know if everybody has something like that. It's a little dark to think about like that, but I don't know. I think it's interesting to think about the things in yourself that you might not want to really be willing to admit to everybody else around you, let alone your family. And
No,
I think
yeah, I
there's
agree.
definitely parts of Jack. I think that what I'm trying to get at with all that is you can clearly tell the character Jack Torrance has shit that he has denied. Like he is in denial about parts of himself. And I think honestly, in a weird way, when he goes kind of cuckoo, that might be the part where he might be his most authentic self, when he's batshit crazy. I don't know. Am I reaching there? Is that making any sense?
No, I
I,
think
I
that
would
definitely.
I would
Go
agree.
ahead.
And like it reminds me of, I don't know, the human mind left to its own devices is not usually a pretty thing. I think of Black Mirror, the TV show. There's an episode, White Christmas it's called, and basically there's this human mind, and you can leave a human mind isolated and it'll stay alive for tens of thousands of years. And basically the mind just breaks after a while, because if you think to yourself, like, I can maybe be by myself and bored for like 2 weeks, but if you had to do that for like 5 months even, like, oh dude, I would be off the wall. I would be seeing ghosts so much. I would be going crazy. And like, it's kind of weird how the human mind, like, I don't know how we keep ourselves busy and just not go crazy, but I feel like if you're stuck with something like boredom and you're stuck with so much of it, then it doesn't lead to good things usually. But I don't know.
Do either of you? This is going to sound a little weird, but I mean, this is Shining. This is it's part of the fun of talking about this this crazy stuff. But Do either of you like ever wonder if you're thinking about like, okay, me in an isolated situation, how long does it take before I go cuckoo? But do you kind of wonder like just a little bit? You're just like, what would I be like as a nut job? Like, what would I do if I was batshit crazy? Like,
I
I
like
kind of
this
think about
question.
those things. I'm like, I bet I would do some creative stuff. Like, it'd be bad, but
Yeah.
it's. Am I weird to think about this? I don't know.
Would you be the kind of, I think I would be the kind of freak that would think he's Jesus.
You'd go into that like have like some weird
That's
spiritual
where I would
thing.
go. If I were to be a nut job, I would think I'm Jesus. I think that
You
that's
have
the
long
direction I would be
hair.
heading.
That helps.
I do have long hair, yeah, dude. Jesus is a cool guy, and I could see myself being the next reincarnation of Jesus. You know,
So Sophia, say that you are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You're
Okay.
insane. You have lost your mind.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Ooh.
Are you trying to murder your family? Like, I guess let's start with that. Are you trying to kill them?
I'm gonna say no.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'd like to think that it would be something like a Van Gogh crazy situation. I am
Mhm.
not an artist by any means, but I think if I was crazy enough, I would think that I was. And I would just be like, this is my art. And it was just like finger paintings like strewn all over. So I think it would just be like creating something completely insane and being like, this is the best thing that's ever been created. Hang this in the Louvre right now. And
And if
I'm
they
just,
don't hang it in the Louvre, do you turn to violence
then
or
it's
do
on
you?
site.
Oh God.
how about you,
Um,
Jordan? What kind of
Yeah,
insane person
what's
would
your
you be?
crazy outlet?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I might be crazy today even. I say and do things all the time. I'm like, I don't know what's always gonna come out of my mouth. But okay, in the hypothetical situation that I have isolated myself, do I have a wife and son in this situation too? Like, I mean, is it just
You
me?
decide. You decide.
Okay, well, in hypothetical land, um, sure, I'll say I'm married and I'll change it up. I got a baby. He can't walk. He's a crawler. You know, is
There you
that
go.
do people call babies that they can't walk? They call them crawlers. Is that that's made up?
I think it's just babies, but yeah, go ahead.
Nah, I'm gonna make that be a thing. If I have a baby, he's a crawler. I'm not calling
All
him a
right.
baby. Okay, so in this hypothetical situation, um, well, I definitely don't think I would turn to violence right away because I don't think I have kind of the aggressive undertones that Jack Torrance has. It's not really me, but I can be pretty sarcastic and I can sometimes have a peculiar sense of humor. So I have a feeling as I start to lose my grip with reality, there would be things that would be hysterical to me, but nobody else would find it funny. So I would start like laughing obscenely at like nothing. Like water
You
could
have
be
your
running. I
Joker
just like,
moment.
like I would start that way, and that would be like, okay, kind of red flag. He's like, why is that funny? Like,
Mhm.
humor is subjective, but even that's not funny. But he's laughing at it. So my sense of humor starts to deteriorate into madness, and then I think furthermore from that, I probably start to do weird stuff with my appearance because I would like look at myself in the mirror for a while and be like, I don't know who I am. And then like I'd like, I don't know, shave off an eyebrow and pull
Yeah.
out nose hair.
Shave
And
your hair.
I don't know, I might shave it all. I don't really even know. I don't know in that situation. So I lose my sense of humor. I go crazy on the mirror, probably put on lipstick, I bet. I could see that.
You could
I
pull it
could see
off.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
you seem like a lipstick kind of guy.
some feminine features. I shaved this off. I have a very pristine baby face, so I could maybe do something with that. Um, no, but then honestly, I think what happens when I go full blown crazy, I don't think, like I said, I don't think I would attack people, but I do think I would perhaps like, I don't know, crawl around like an animal, maybe run around and think I'm a zebra. I don't really know, but I
You
just see
seem
myself physically doing a lot of external kind of crazy
Breaking
movements,
down.
like just like like
if
I don't know. I like the idea of that. So
to
something
me,
like that.
Jordan, you seem like a guy that would do a lot of yelling. Like I feel like you would
Yeah,
just yell random nonsense. You'd be one of those kind of guys.
I could see it because, like I said, I
You
mean,
you got a lot on your mind, man. Like you do this podcast, you do a lot of talking to yourself anyway. So I feel like
it's true.
you would do more of that, you know? You'd be like, "Hey guys, welcome to the podcast," and you're just like walking
Oh, that'd be a good
down a
one.
road.
Pretending I'm on an episode without being on an episode. That'd be good. Be like, what are you doing? Be like,
Exactly.
I'm live streaming right now. Like, no, okay.
No, you're naked. Stop.
Am I naked in this scenario too? Are you?
That's what I was thinking.
Just lipstick.
I do think eventually though you have
Just
to
lipstick.
the clothes have to come off in the crazy scenario. I mean, they have to. That's
It's inevitable.
Yeah, man.
yeah.
You gotta show off
Clothing,
what you got.
it's another thing that society puts on you to imprison you. I'm just kidding. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so going back to reality a little bit. When you think about your own demons, I'm going to get a little personal here if I'm allowed to. I'm just curious what both of you do if you have, I think anybody you could argue has some kind of a little demon within themselves, or they have something that they're not always the proudest of that they try to kind of work with and things like that. Do you do anything that you feel like that kind of helps you just be like, kind of okay with who you are, whether it's write or journal or paint something or work out or I don't know, smoke a bowl or I don't know what people do.
Heroin.
I'm not gonna go that far, Adam. No, no. But if you do that, we'll get you help, I guess.
Yeah, help.
I would say in a very like Jack Torrance way, I guess, not from my own, but reflective of. I'm a big journaler, so journaling I think is a great way for me to like work through things. I might take some of the things that like I write about and talk to other people about it and get that external feedback, but it's a great place to just work through things in a way that there's obviously no judgment. I could just go through pages. Other than that, I'm a big runner as well, so just go. Just take some time, be by myself, but
Running's
work through
great.
things in a more healthy way. I don't know.
Adam, what about you?
I tend to be more of just like a distraction type. So I always just like look for someone to talk to or for something to do. I'm a pretty social guy, so it's like I don't like if I'm in a tough situation, I don't really ever like being alone. And like it doesn't really matter what I'm doing with someone else as long as I'm like not just like sitting by myself and thinking to my thoughts. Like I could be playing video games with you, Jordan, or I could be going on a walk with someone. But I tend to like when I get into situations where I'm like not having a good time, I always try to not necessarily lean on someone else, but I'm just a pretty social guy, so I like seeing other people, and that tends to help me like not stress as much and just like talk through things with people, whatever it may be.
Well, I think it's interesting when you think about like how much, or at least this is what I think about when I think about this is you wonder sometimes like how much is good to like be by yourself or to like get in touch kind of with your feelings, because I do think there's like a like a slippery slope maybe, because sometimes you can overthink things, or sometimes you've spent a little too much time by yourself and then you're kind of out of touch from things. So there is sometimes a benefit to do something mindless or go talk to somebody or just go do something that's with people, but you're not really having to like be in your head so much. There's a benefit to it, but I don't know. I do like doing the secluded things too, like running. You said that, Sophia. I like to run a lot. um I'll share kind of a pathetic thing about running if that's okay. I
Go
think
for it.
you'll find
I
it
can't wait to hear
interesting.
it.
So, okay, I don't know if anybody else thinks about running this way, because running, I found from anyone I've talked to that does it remotely seriously, it's a very personal thing. It's kind of a meditative exercise in a way. It's much more of a
Mhm.
mind over physical thing. It's especially if you do distance running. Um, but here's my sad, pathetic truth on running sometimes. I'm not saying I think this all the time, but sometimes. I know sometimes if I've had like just a difficult day, whether it's in work or life, and I've like been struggling with doing something all day, like some really hard, like mental task that I'm like, I feel dumb. I'm like working my ass off on this and I feel stupid all day. Well, it feels pretty good to go for a run and be like, all I have to do is put one foot in front of the other. How can I mess this up? I'm like,
You can't. Yeah.
kind of the way I'm trying to say it is that like I'm not saying like stupid people have a hope in like running, but like I feel I'm like when I run, I don't have to exercise a lot of critical brain power, because to me it's not that hard. I'm just like just run and I can do that. And then when I get done with it, I'm like, oh, I felt like I accomplished something during a day where I feel like I failed all day. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes sense. It's funny in my head, but when I say it, it kind of sounds, but anyway.
No, I don't think that's pathetic at all. I think that because there's definitely days that I fall into that same category too of like I know that I can get this done either if it's running or like I also weight lift too. So it's like I know that I can do that. Like I know that at any day, no matter the situation, my body is capable of doing that one thing. And then it's just crossing that off the list. And then it's like, okay, maybe I'm in a better headspace, maybe I'm better equipped to handle whatever it was that was causing me problems before. But regardless, I know that I am able to do this thing. So I
That's well
think
said. Yes.
yeah, I don't think it's pathetic at all.
Yeah, this is part of my personality though. I'm very self-deprecating. I love the shit on myself. I'm so good at it too. Like it's a favorite pastime of mine, just like taking a crap on myself. That sounds,
Absolutely.
I shouldn't say like that's a strange visual to picture, but anywho, I
Piece
got
of shit.
a piece of garbage, piece of trash. Adam, where? Okay, I know no one can see you, but it is dark in there, my friend. Can you even see?
I can, yeah. If for people that are listening, I am currently me and Sophia are in the same house currently because we're at my house.
Why don't you
She's
share
my
where you're
girlfriend.
recording from, though, my friend?
But I am currently in my bathroom using her laptop because I felt like I would be a good boyfriend and give her
It'd be
the
the
comfy chair
chivalrous
with my
thing to
comfy
do.
gamer headset.
Dude,
Yeah, I'm just doing what cool boyfriends do personally. But
It's
yeah,
true.
dude,
I'm currently sitting in the bathroom, and I kind of prefer dark in here because the light is kind of like really bright,
yeah,
and
no,
you guys can
turn
still
that
see me
off.
with the darkness. You could still see me anyway doing that. But
With your
Yeah,
dark sweater, it kind of just makes you a floating head. But
it's true.
I think that's fun.
Yes, I like you shaking your head around like a demented person.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's in keeping
Um,
with theme.
it
you
is. Yeah, I was gonna
gotta,
say
Jordan, you gotta get video podcasting.
dude, I'm working on it. I actually the next thing I have that I'm gonna be making an investment in is proper two-way audio recorder. So that way when I actually have a guest here, like I don't want to call this a studio, this is
In
my
the
home
studio.
office. But when because I like to have guests here in person if I can. And I've done that now several times, but I don't have a proper audio recording system to have two independent audio channels running consistently against each other without there being echoes. So I've done research, and long story short, I just have to purchase this audio splitter thing that allows me to do what I need to do, so I can be professional and not just doing the Lady and the Tramp thing. Because if you see this microphone here, the person sits on the couch like right over there, and then like we kind of got to be like, it's not like don't kiss me kind of thing. It's a little strange. Okay, so I had a note on here. I don't know why. It's got nothing to do with the topic we just talked about, but it's interesting because I just kept thinking of the Overlook Hotel. There's a lot of long hallways in this movie, and there's a lot of empty rooms and just big empty spaces, big empty rooms and long hallways. And I don't know, it got me thinking. I'm sure both of you have been in a space at some point where you're like, there's a long hallway. I don't know if I want to go down that. I mean, am I alone in feeling creeped out by long hallways with no people?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if it's just a visual thing because I'm expecting something to come out of that long hallway. I can't do it. I actually, now that you say it, have you seen the movie it's Invisible Man? It was the reboot that they did like 2 years ago.
I know the reboot. It's got Elizabeth Moss in it, but
Yes.
I have not seen it. I've heard it's good
Okay. Okay.
or it's decent. I
You
mean,
should
is it
watch.
good?
It's really good. You should watch it. I don't want to I
Yeah,
don't
don't
want to
give it
spoil
away
it.
because it is a movie I will watch, hopefully sooner rather than later. But yes, is there a lot of invisible or not invisible, but is there weird hallways in that?
It is, yeah, or just like long lingering shots, like what you were talking about,
Mm,
where you're waiting for something. Because I think, especially with the conventions of film, that sounds so lame, but like the way that shots are set up, if there's like a long hallway, you're expecting something to happen within it, and that anticipation of that thing not fulfilling your expectation makes you even more on edge. So I thought that Kubrick, like the few times that Kubrick really did it, was really well done. Same thing in Invisible Man, where you're already on edge because you know that Jack is a mess. You know that his family life isn't good. You have all these other factors coming together, but then adding that extra visual element of being just put off by what you want to happen not happening, I thought was really interesting.
What I thought was a very interesting point on the subject of the hallways is now I'm sure between the three of us, we've all seen a number of different horror movies over the years and whatnot. But I feel like a trope that gets tried a lot and still today is let's say like the protagonist of a movie turns around a corner, there's a hallway, and then like it's like, flashing tweaky lights. It looks creepy. Like it looks like I shouldn't walk down that. I'm gonna get murdered. Like that happens, I feel like, as a trope in horror movies all the time. But interestingly enough, with The Shining, there are all those long, creepy hallways and whatnot, but a lot of them aren't really dimly lit. In fact, most of them have normal lighting, but in a way, it kind of makes it more unsettling because there's not like it's not like the character's going to go around and be like, oh, okay, there's some creepy shit going down at the end of that one. I'm not going to go down that. But there's like a more like realism creepiness to the whole thing, I guess, because they're not relying on that blatant visual imagery to try to get you to be afraid of it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
that's a really good point, actually. I never thought about it that way, but you're totally right, where it's like in the movie where it finally turns around, there's the twins there. They're like, and at the end of hallways in general, it's always like very well lit. Like you will see something if there's something there. You're just like anticipating like turning that corner and something being there, but it's not necessarily because it's like dark or anything like that.
Adam, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say the lighting in this movie as a whole is just very like, and the visuals especially are just, all of it's just really off-putting. I don't know what it is, but like it just doesn't feel right. And he does a very good job of it. I'm not sure if it's like the angles, like I can think of a specific, like the angle with the bartender when he's sitting there having a drink and he's looking back at the bartender. The bartender is just like, I don't know if it's the lighting is off or something like that, where it's just shining on his eyes, but he doesn't look real. He looks like some sort of like plastic man, or like he's just staring into your soul like a demon. I don't know what it is, but the lighting of it just is so off-putting, and it just makes the movie as a whole that much more creepy.
That's a great point, though, with the bartender, though, in particular, because I love the Gold Room in the Overlook Hotel. Like that, I wish I could have a drink at a place like that. That would be phenomenal. It's an absolutely gorgeous place, and the whole setting overall for the movie, it is a pretty place. I mean, if it wasn't haunted, I would probably want to go ski there or something. But the bartender thing, that was interesting because when they first reveal him, he is lit in such a way that, and obviously the actor's like kind of like staring like really intensely. He doesn't really blink that much, and there is kind of this like you're like, this is not truly human, kind of like there's a strange element going on there. But Adam, I want to ask you, because I feel like you're going to have a good response to this, maybe. So you were talking about those twin girls, the ones that was like, come play with us forever and ever and ever, and all that thing. I'm curious right now, say you come around the corner, those twin girls are there. What are you going to do? Do you go play with them?
No, I would definitely, I would definitely not. It would either, the two options are get the fuck out of there or go beat the shit out of them. Those are my two options, really.
I like the idea of you taking charge and going to beat them.
Like, what could they possibly want? What could possibly happen that would be remotely fun? Hanging out with two twins in general are just creepy. Like they're not cool. They deserve to be. They need to be split up. They need to be split up.
What if the twin girls, they actually have just no malicious intent? They just want to play with you. Like, is it so harmless to like do whatever girls from the 60s or whatever like to do, or the 80s, whatever, what are they going to want to do?
They wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't talk to me like they do in The Shining, though. They wouldn't become play with us. I think the fact that they're talking together really just like, they're really just trying to like really not want me to like them by doing that. And they also had to dress the exact same too. Like you could just you could dress differently. You could word things a little bit better, and you could also not talk in unison like weirdos. That would be my response to the twins to avoid being beaten by me.
Adam, you had mentioned before that the twins, I think you had said that they were off-putting, right?
Yes,
But I gotta ask, I'm gonna do a little like you gotta pick one. Who's more off-putting? The twin girls or naked granny?
Oh
Oh,
god,
that
dude.
scene was
Nick.
so bad. I couldn't watch it. I've seen that movie how many times and I could not watch it because I was like, I don't make me look at this hag.
Yeah, it's that whole scene when like the curtain goes back and like she's like coming out of the tub, and I mean she's an older woman, but like she's
It's
I get chills thinking about that scene. It's
Sophia made a good comment while we were watching it about how like we're still not sure exactly what it is, but it might be the carpet or something. But the whole shot of like as soon as he walks into the room, and I think it's because the camera is Jack's eyes specifically. It's just you feel like you're in a dream. Like you don't.
yeah.
It's definitely not reality as soon as you enter that
Mhm.
room. And I don't know how exactly Stanley Kubrick does it. I don't know if it's with the carpet or if he does some sort of lighting trick. But like as soon as you enter the room, you're like, this is not right. This isn't reality. Something is going on here. I
Hmm.
don't know what it
Yeah.
is though.
Well, in the same way with the way that the woman got out of the bathtub, like the way that she was like reaching around the curtain and the way she like
Yes.
stepped out. And I was like, that I don't know what it is, but that does not look like a real human being. Like obviously you had to
Yeah.
hire an actress for that, but that's not a person. I don't know what it is.
I think it makes that scene more creepy, the fact that it is so deliberately again slowly paced. Because if she were to just pull it back and be like, "What's up, baby?" and like just like get out and be like, like come and do me, like that would
Boobies.
have I would love to see an alternate cut of that where she's just like boobies.
Woo!
And Jack's just like, all right. I can't do a good Jack Nicholson impression.
No, that was good. You just gotta like, all right.
Yeah, I get like it's his
The
expression.
Kubrick stare. Yeah.
Yeah, which we're gonna talk about Jack Nicholson's creepy ass stare in this movie because it's good. I don't think I would want anyone to stare at me like that, but it makes me uncomfortable in the best way. Um, so I want to talk about this. So The Shining, like the actual Shining, hey
Bad
Tony,
Ram.
bad Ram. Which did you like? Okay, Adam, you had never seen it before. Did you get what he was saying when he was doing that? Like, I mean,
No, I
it's like,
let me know. I did not know it was murder until he wrote it down. I literally asked Sophia 10 seconds before it happened, like, what does this mean? She's
You
like,
had
yeah,
a
just wait and
great
see. Just wait.
reaction.
And I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
did
by
not
that point
know.
in the movie, everything like shit has hit the fan. And when they do
mhm.
the little mirror reveal, you had a great reaction. I loved watching you watch that part.
It's a yeah, it's great how they do that because I'm pretty sure they do like a real dramatic zoom out on it. It's just like boom,
Boom.
murder.
You're like, ah.
You're just like, oh shit. Um, gotta ask though. I'm thinking about this. The subject of little Danny and Tony that apparently lives in his mouth, which is kind of strange. Um, you guys have kids in this hypothetical world that I'm making. Um, yeah, you guys have a kid. His name is Timmy. I'm making it up.
Mhm.
He comes up to you and like you guys are just sitting at the dinner table. You're just like, Timmy, how was your day? And he's like, it was pretty good. Like, do you get alarmed? Like, I mean, like, what is your first reaction to your child having a boy that lives in his mouth?
My gut reaction, um, truthfully, fire station baby. Just I don't care how old that kid is, in a box, drop off. Like you will not bring that demon nonsense in here. I don't no. No, I don't want it.
Now, is
I
Firehouse Baby? Is this like the like I'm putting him in like in a basket
In
outside
a
and just
basket
being
and leaving
like,
him outside. Yeah.
do you give a note saying that may be possessed? I
Nope.
mean,
That's
nothing.
that's their thing to figure out.
Oh shit. Adam, what
I
about you? Your son or daughter or whatever has the boy living there. What do you
see,
do?
see the weird thing is like I think kids are just fucking creepy in general. Like
They
I
can
remember
be.
as a kid having like an imaginary friend. So
Yeah.
like where's the cutoff between having an imaginary friend and just being schizophrenic? You know,
Ooh.
where is that cutoff really at? And I mean, maybe I guess that's what child doctors are for, and that child doctor in The Shining was terrible at her job. But I don't know. I feel like kids as a whole are really creepy. And especially after watching this movie, I'm like, God, I really don't want to have a kid. I feel like he's gonna like say weird things in his sleep, and then I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, this kid's possessed. We got to get rid of him, like
Yeah, he's gonna wake up leaning over you with a knife.
yeah,
I
exactly.
got told when I was a kid. Now I didn't have a knife, thank God. But I did get told that there was a couple of times where like I would like want to like go to bed with like my mom or my dad, as like a little like 3-year old, or you know what I mean, like some like little young infant. But I guess like I wouldn't like ask. I would just like go up to the bed and just like kind of stare until like they knew I was there. But I'm like,
Oh
that
my
had to have
gosh,
messed
dude.
with
I
them.
would I
Like
would
that's
punch you in the
messed.
face, Jordan.
Like,
Terrible.
and it's like I wouldn't even say anything. I think like they just be like, they told me they're just like, do you want to like sleep with us? And like I think I would just be like, I wouldn't even vocalize it. I just like creepily nod.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not normal. I don't
Maybe
know.
fire station baby's too harsh, but like, yeah, I think you have to give kids a reasonable amount of time and latitude to
Yeah.
be creative and I don't know, have that imaginary friend and create those stories in their heads or whatever it may be. But yeah, I agree. I think it hits a point where you're like, all right, I need a doctor right
But
now
but
because this kid's not well.
okay. Did you have an imaginary friend?
I don't remember having one. I'm gonna be honest.
It's okay. Adam, you said you had one, right?
Yeah, I had one. I
Tell
forgot its
tell
name.
us about him. Where is
I
he
remember
now?
it was the same. It looked the exact same as the Pokemon Flygon. If you know who the Pokemon Flygon is.
I do not.
Oh, okay. He's a dragon type Pokemon. He looks like a dragonfly kind of.
Okay, I know
But it was a
dragonflies. That's
different
cool.
color than the Pokemon. He was red and orange.
Did he
And
like
he
go
could
to school with you? Like where? Like what did he
yeah,
do?
we would just like hang out on the playground.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
I don't
I
know.
know. Interestingly enough, the only
Jordan, did you
imagine.
have one?
Yeah. I mean, I it was for I don't know what age I was. I'm always really shitty at like recalling like some people are like really weird to me when they're just like I was 6 years old and I did this. I'm like, why the hell do you know
Remember.
exactly what age you were? I don't know. It's all a blur.
They should go to a doctor, honestly.
I think they should probably. I the imaginary friend I had, it was for a little bit of period of time, but I know it was inspired from Pokemon, so that's why I draw the connection there because I was a big Pokemon fan, and for whatever reason, I imagined there would be a unique Pokemon that was a soccer ball. He had arms and legs, but he was a Pokemon that I made up. I don't think he had a clever name or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it's just like Soccer Chew or something like that, Pikachu.
Dude,
I don't know. It was very unoriginal.
that
But
sounds that sounds pretty original,
I made a
honestly.
drawing of him
It's
once. I
creative.
know that's probably around somewhere. And I think I just pretty much visualized him sitting next to me on the school bus. And that's probably about it.
He tells you things, would you say?
Tells me to do things
He
to
tells you to
people.
do things.
you know, totally
Kick me in the
non-violent
goal,
things.
Jordan. Kick me in the goal.
Yeah, that's I'm just trying to think like if wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be a great thing to do in a meeting sometime for like work or something? If you're just like, how's everybody doing? You just do the finger thing, be like, this is Tony. I'd probably get fired, but
You probably get fired, yeah.
it'd be pretty cool
You'd get a
though.
laugh. So,
Would I get a laugh or would I just
So
come
when-
off as being severely disturbed?
You
Okay.
never know until you do it.
If
So-
you're wearing lipstick, then possibly. But
Okay, so I want to touch on the actual. I don't know. We got talking to the imaginary friends and some other things, but it's okay. So the Shining itself, the actual gift of being able to, I guess. Well, let me first ask, what did you both interpret the Shining gift to actually be? Because I feel like you could interpret it in a couple different ways for like what it actually does.
I interpret it more as kind of a psychic, but a psychic that's able to balance. I don't know. I guess he could kind of see into the future a little bit,
Yeah.
but primarily just seeing into the past and like picking up the vibes of the place and understanding like this is a really like a deeply haunted space, and like I can see the bad things that happened here, but then also being able to communicate that to other people who also had the shining of this is a deeply haunted place. You should be a little scared of this.
I think that's well said. I think it's interesting too, like, being able to talk to the other people with Shine. It's like, how can you tell who's on your network? I mean, is it like there's a family plan, like a phone plan, for the
Yeah.
Shining people? Like, how do you
I just
connect?
constantly can't. Well, yeah, because he talked to
Yeah,
Dick Halloran over state lines. I was like, that's
it's
that's
true.
bonkers. Did you have to
Speaking,
work up to that level, or did you just like cast a net out there and you hooked him and pulled him in?
well, I do think if either of you see the sequel, Doctor Sleep, the official
Did not.
sequel? Oh shit. Okay, first off, you guys got to watch Doctor Sleep. It's actually like good. It's a worthy sequel to The Shining, and like it's well done. I haven't read the book, but the reason I bring it up is because they kind of explore that a little bit of like the range that somebody's shine has. So it's interesting. I won't say too much.
Okay. Okay.
Kind of interesting though. If you guys had The Shining, you had this gift. I mean, are you just going to try to find other people and just like have wireless conversations in your mind and like just be like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, how's it going?" or are you just going to like what are you going to do with it?
I feel like it would mess with my perception of reality a little bit, and I think it would send me a little bit insane. Like honestly, the cook guy, who we should come back to him at some point because I want to
Or
talk a little bit about that
Catman.
is
the
Scatman Carruthers?
Catmandu basically is what. But
He's cool.
he was kind of creepy as well, and I feel like if I had the ability of The Shining, like I think that would have a serious effect on me being able to function in society if I was able to telepathy connect with only like a specific amount of other people. I don't know. I feel like that would throw me for a loop for sure.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah. And if I could
definitely
just like
yeah.
stumble into a place and find out that it was haunted in the time that I was there. Because Danny was just living his life, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden scary twins appear. It'd be awful. You never know when the next thing that's just gonna completely send you over the edge is gonna be around the corner.
Yeah, I don't know exactly like and it's kind of something to think about too is like if the the ability of it, if you would even consider it to be a gift or if it's a curse, because I mean I would arguably say in the case of Danny it's probably a curse. I mean, I don't know what kid wants to really experience and have to deal with things like that, let alone when you're trying to just grow up and figure out life at a young age. That's a lot to handle. And also on top of that, he has all the child abuse trauma that he has from his father. And as a kid, he's probably not even coping with that, right? So I think that combination for him is unfair, but in a more, in a person that maybe doesn't have that kind of traumatic upbringing, maybe it could be good. Maybe they could like actually like come to terms with it, figure it out, make it be a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I would want to have more conversations with Dick Halloran, Scott Carruthers, Adam. I know you want to talk about him quick. I gotta ask because it's a scene I still haven't really like been able to like figure out. I'm like I don't even know if it means anything, if it's weird. But isn't there like a point in the movie where he's like chilling in Miami or something, and like they do like that really slow panning shot, and he just has that big portrait of the naked women, like
Oh yeah,
just
that's
like
right.
up in his apartment, and you're just like, that's cool, I guess, but like what does this mean? Does it
I
mean
didn't
anything?
necessarily take it for to mean anything. I just thought he was just kind of like a lonely guy. That's what I always thought. That's what I thought when I saw it. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, this dude's just kind of lonely living in Miami.
that's
But
true.
more what I wanted to talk about with him was I do not understand how you get an SOS call. You know this place is haunted, and you do not take a gun with you or
Ah,
an axe or anything. And you literally just walk in and you just start like being like, is anyone there? Is
yeah, that
anyone
is
there? Like
that
it
is
doesn't it literally it does not make any sense to me why you would do that. And I understand it's like a horror film and you gotta like do all this stuff or whatever, but it was a little bit too much of like this guy is acting completely clueless right now.
well, and
And we have
it's
no reason to think he's like why was he acting that way? Do you guys have any explanation for why he was doing that?